So good afternoon, everyone. I would like to call this meeting to order. Today is Tuesday, October 25th. The time is 4:02 p.m. As a reminder, please note that board meetings are being recorded for the convenience of those unable to attend this video conference. A recording and closed captioning will be posted to the BERS YouTube channel following the meeting. Alex, could you please call the roll?
Yes, thank you. Tazeen Azad.
Only use
Hello, present.
Thank you.
he can't
Aaron
use
Bogad.
everything.
Janelle Chacon.
I don't even know. I don't even know. Like,
Hang on, someone's
he can't
unmuted.
use any
May I please ask all participants to mute their mics unless they're actually speaking in the meeting?
outside other than us, like you said.
Like it might be Angela.
Dr. Green, I think that your mic is on. Thank you. Thank you. Aaron Bogad. Janelle Chacon.
Present.
Thank you. Marjorie Dienstag. Gregory Faulkner.
Present.
Thank you. Cherie Gibson.
Present.
Thank you. Dr. Angela Green.
No.
Thank you. Allison Hirsch.
Present.
Thank you. Ruth Maria Kenley.
Present.
Thank you. Kyle Kimball.
Present.
Thank you. Anthony Lopez.
Present.
Thank you. John Maderick.
I'm here, Alex. I'll be on camera shortly.
Thank you. Thank you. Donald Nesbitt.
Present.
Thank you. Alan Ong.
Present.
Thank you. Dr. Kaliri Salas Ramirez. Sarita Scott.
Present.
Thank you. Thomas Shepard.
Present.
Thank you. Karina Taveras.
Present.
Thank you. And Gladys Ward.
Present.
Thank you.
Hey, Alex, for the record, I just want to say that Marjorie Dienstag is here. I'm not sure if you got her marked as present.
I did not. Yes. Hi. Hi. Thank you. Okay. We have a quorum.
Thank you, Alex. The first item on the agenda is calendar item number 1, noting of the minutes of the meeting of the Board of Retirement held on September 20th, 2022. May I have a motion to consider?
So moved.
Thank you, Kyle. May I have a second?
I second, Tazeen.
Thank you, Ms. Azad. Are there any corrections or edits to the minutes? Okay, great. So let's vote. When I call out all in favor, if you wish to vote in favor of approving the minutes, please unmute yourself and respond in favor. Similarly, if you wish to oppose or abstain from the vote, please unmute yourself and respond accordingly when I call out any opposed or any abstentions. All in favor of approving the minutes for October 18th, 2022, please respond in favor. In favor, Tom.
In favor, Greg.
In favor, Anthony.
In favor, Tazeen.
In favor, Alan.
Any opposed? Oh, sorry. Any opposed? Any abstentions? So with no one opposed and no one abstaining, the motion passes unanimously. The next item on our agenda is an executive session to discuss a disciplinary matter affecting 2 employees. An executive session is a portion of an open meeting during which the public may be excluded. Per Public Officers Law, Section 105, subsection 1F, executive sessions may be held if the discussion is about matters leading to the employment, promotion, demotion, discipline, suspension, or dismissal or removal of a particular person. May I have a motion to enter executive session?
So move, Tazeen.
Thank you, Ms. Azad. May I have a second, please?
Second.
I'm sorry?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Dienstag. So let's vote. All in favor? Aye, Tom.
Aye, Kyle Kimball. Aye,
Aye,
Alan.
Tony.
I,
Aye, Greg.
Angela Green.
Aye, Tazeen. Aye, Sarita.
Any
Marty
opposed?
Dienstag.
Okay. Any opposed?
Opposed, John.
Thank you, John. Any abstentions? Okay, so we have one opposed. That's John Maderick, and everyone else was in favor with no abstentions. We are now in executive session.
Point of clarification.
Yes, sir.
The executive session, we're going over exactly what in executive session?
Okay, so the purpose of this executive session was to have a discussion. Let's see, I'll just repeat it. The purpose of this executive session is to discuss a disciplinary matter affecting 2 employees.
Yeah, I got that, Tom. I'm clear on that. I just my recollection of the last meeting was that we would go over what was tabled into the next meeting. Those resolutions, and I'll stay corrected if I'm wrong, but those resolutions wasn't exactly personnel matters, but to be discussed in public session.
That's correct. So the executive session is to discuss the disciplinary issue. The open session is to discuss the matters that we tabled.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Karen, please move the trustees to a breakout room and stop the recording.
Okay, we are now back in public session. During the executive session, the board resolved to, Alex, can you report out?
Certainly. During executive session, the board continued deliberations on discipline regarding 2 employees. The board has postponed the matter of discipline for further deliberation at its next meeting.
Okay, thank you, Alex. The next item on the agenda is calendar item number 3, adoption of policy regarding compensation for Board of Education Retirement System managerial employees. May I have a motion to consider?
Motion, John.
Motion, John Matarich. A second, do we have a second?
Second, Angela Green.
Second, Angela Green. Karen, may you share the resolution on the screen?
No, I do not. You trying
I'll
to share
I'll
it?
share it. I'll share it. Just one second. It's blank. Hold on one second. Can you
Okay.
see that?
Yes, if you can make it a little bigger, I'm not sure. Yes. Should we actually read the entire resolution or?
It's up to you, Chair. I think, it's not necessary. I have a couple of quick words to say about this if you wish. It's
Okay.
basically intended to cover uh, this is a very bare bones policy, right? The board, if the board wishes to pass a policy like this, it can always come back and reconsider a more fleshed out policy, right? This is just meant to adopt some basic safeguards. So the adoption of this very brief policy doesn't mean you can't come back and, you know, do something bigger later, but, you know, this is somewhere to begin.
Okay, thank you for that, Alex. So the basis when considering an increase for managerial employees, this resolution would one require the express approval of the board for an increase in compensation in excess of 25,000 or 10% of the employee's current salary. Two, require the executive committee to review the request and make a recommendation regarding the request to the board as a whole. And three, in any case where an employee represents that he or she has received a job offer elsewhere, require management to make efforts to confirm the validity of the proposed job offer and the expected starting salary. Are there any questions or comments from the board? I'm sorry, but with the screen sharing, I can't see any hands, so I'll just go through. Are there any questions or comments from the board? Is any questions or comments from the board? Seeing no hands. I'm sorry, but I can't see, so I'm trying to go through everyone. Okay, I don't see any hands raised. Let me just go to the second page to make sure. No, I don't see any hands raised. So we will need to vote. All those in favor, please indicate if you're in favor of this of adoption of this policy regarding compensation for the Board of Ed Retirement System managerial employees. If you oppose, please state that. If you're in favor, if you abstain, when I say abstain, please make that known. All those in favor of this resolution, please indicate by the sound of aye, or in favor, Donald.
In favor, John.
In favor, Greg.
Aye, Allison.
In favor, Angela.
In favor, Sarita Scott.
In favor, Alan.
In favor, Marjorie.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries. The next item on the agenda is calendar item number 4, amendment to the authority of and procedure of the Executive Committee of the Board of Ed Retirement System. May I have a motion to consider?
Motion to consider, Tazeen.
Motion to consider Tazeen Azad. Do we have a second?
Second, Gladys Ward.
A second by Gladys Ward. The resolution amends the Executive Committee charter to add to the Executive Committee duties the review of any management proposals for increases to BERS employee compensation, which would exceed the threshold set in the policy regarding compensation for BERS managerial employees. Are there any questions or comments from the board?
I have a question. Why are we proposing, sorry, this is Allison.
Oh, go ahead, Allison.
Sorry. Why is the proposal for this to come before the executive committee and not the whole board?
In the last recommendation that we approved, actually, you know what? I'll let Alex answer that.
Hi, so this is just a proposal. This is meant to be complementary to the previous resolution. The board can, of course, order this any way that the board wishes. But the previous resolution did say that this responsibility would be given to the executive committee.
Got it.
And yeah, Alex, and correct me if I'm wrong, it said with a recommendation that goes before the full board.
Yes, the decisions go to the full board. It's the legwork is performed by the executive committee.
Got it. Thank you.
Any other comments from the board on this calendar item? Any other comments? Any other comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please indicate if you're in favor. If you're opposed, please say you're opposed. Or if you abstain, please state that as well. In favor, Donald Nesbitt.
In favor, John.
In favor, Greg.
In favor, Angela.
In favor, Tazeen.
In favor, Allison.
In favor, Marjorie.
In favor, Alan.
In favor, Trustee.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? The motion carries. Let me see, calendar item number 5, a discussion regarding written regulations and guidance for BERS executives concerning fiduciary duties. May I have a motion to discuss?
So moved, Angela.
Second from John.
Dr. Angela Green, second by John Matterich. Any discussion? No, we have a second. We received a recommendation to adopt written regulations and guidance for BERS executives concerning fiduciary duties. Previously, BERS has provided fiduciary training to trustees via our investment consultant, Siegel Marco advisors, along with certain written materials. We have not provided specific training on fiduciary duty to staff. BERS managers have received conflicts of interest training from DCAS and DOE in the past. However, BERS has not thus far adopted its own written rules and regulations regarding conflicts of interest. Are there any suggestions for how trustees want to proceed with this recommendation? Are there any suggestions with how we as a board would like to proceed with this recommendation? Let me ask Alex, what exactly has came to your office? I mean, my way of suggestion on this matter.
This is a very open-ended recommendation, right? So there are many different ways that this can be handled. So as a baseline, there are many responsibilities that bind the officers of a retirement system such as this, just as a baseline and without this board doing anything, right? So the principal ones would be the conflict of interest rules that generally bind civil servants in the city of New York, right? So this is a minimum, this is a baseline. If the board wishes to adopt stricter rules than what COIB already gives, this is within the board's discretion. Additionally, the board could create additional or authorize additional training programs for staff. This is an open-ended recommendation, like I said, so I think the board should discuss whether what it's thinking about, what it feels would be a useful thing here. And, if there's a desire for additional written policies, we can see about drafting something.
And am I correct in saying, Alex, from what I'm reading here, BERS has the staff, the managers have received training from DCAS and DOE. There's just not an adopted written policy.
Generally speaking, yes. Yeah, so this training happens at certain regular intervals, usually I think a couple years apart. But there isn't a written policy at this time. That's correct.
So can we adopt this as written policy? The DCAS training and DOE training is sort of mandatory for BERS staff to take?
Yes. I don't know whether I don't know that would change anything. Well, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm interested in the law department's perspective on this as well.
Okay, so should we actually table this for discussion at our next meeting? Since we would have a better interpretation.
Yeah, so
then?
this is a bit of a large topic. Did you want to give us a direction before is there, if you give me some directions, I'll follow up on it and I'll try to get you, something to get started with.
Yeah, can you, I guess for me, I don't want to speak for the entire board. I guess for me, if they're taking DCAS training and DOE training, can you look at some specific trainings that would be additional to that? I guess.
Sure. Sure.
And then give us possible recommendations moving forward?
Sure, of course.
Okay, so is that okay with the board? Because I don't want to speak for everyone here. I see some thumbs up. Any further discussion on that? I guess.
I have a question. So,
Yes.
if we move or if we choose to in the long run, to sort of require these, sort of, sessions, then what does it look like? Like, hour spent and the implications of it, making something mandatory, I would want to make it sure that it's feasible.
Well, to some extent, this is up to you, right? Now, the minimums that the city gives are not extremely onerous, I think. It's, a few hours every couple of years. Beyond that, what you would like us to do in addition to that would be, kind of up to you, really. There are commercial programs in training on fiduciary duty. There are books and, seminars and things like that. How heavy or how time consuming you would like this to be, it's sort of up to the board, I'd say. Or you can leave it relatively unspecified and ask the executive director to make, to make some of the, executive decisions.
Okay, sounds good. I mean, as we populate suggestions, I guess we could then have more of a better understanding of what it might look like in practice, then I imagine.
We can certainly share some suggestions on that at the next board meeting.
Might it be worthwhile to ask other systems like NYCBERS and TRS what they provide to their staff in terms of fiduciary training and whether it's something that should be considered here?
Yeah.
Yes, we'll certainly do that.
Yeah, I like
I
that.
like that idea, Allison. Great idea.
Yeah. So I think we would need a motion to table adoption of these written regulations. Is that correct, Alex?
Well, yes, to postpone to the next meeting of the board.
Okay, so do we have a motion to postpone this agenda item into the next meeting of the board, when Alex will come back with other recommendations or suggestions for us? Motion made by John Matovich. Do we have a second?
I second it. Tazina Zad.
Tazina Zad, second. All those in favor, please indicate if you're in favor by just saying that. If you're opposed, please state on that. If you abstain, please say that. In favor, Donald as
In favor, John.
In favor, Angela Green.
In favor, Gladys Ward.
In favor, Margie Ginsag.
In favor, Alan O.
okay. Any opposed or any abstentions? Seeing none, the motion carries. Our last item for discussion is regarding the compensation of the Board of Trustees. May I have a motion to discuss?
Motion, John.
Motion, John Matters. Do we have a second?
Second, Tazine.
Second, Tazine Azai. These proposals were actually put in place. Tom and I put some proposals in place for reconstruction of the board. The purpose behind it was that every time there is a change to mayoral control, there is an increase of trustees that actually come to the board. And so in order to not have a situation where every time there is a change to mayoral control, our board expands. We came up with some ideas and certainly proposal. Are there any suggestions or comments from the board on these proposals?
I have a comment.
Allison?
Yes. So thanks for allowing me to speak. While we fully support the idea of long-term restructuring of the BERS board to ensure that its trustees are focused and able to serve as true fiduciaries, the practical implication of the proposals that you put forward is really solely to take the controller's seat off of the BERS board. We think restructuring should be a real discussion of this board and should happen with proper deliberation and due diligence, and that's not what's happening here with this proposal. Rather, as I mentioned, it's a blatant attempt to remove the controller from the board in order to protect the senior staff from accountability following the SCI report. We all know what our disagreements during executive session, but what seems to have happened here is about 2-3 weeks ago, as it became clear that the controller's position would be to discipline Sandy and Daniel, a proposal was put forward by the co-chairs of this board to a subset of the trustees to simply exclude the city's chief fiscal watchdog from serving on the board. In fact, as I mentioned, it did not even get circulated to the full board originally. Rather, the proposal was sent to a select group of trustees on September 30th, 2 weeks before it was sent to the full board. When I reached out to the co-chairs to respectfully ask for a copy of the resolution, I was told that you are not under any obligation to share it with me and could choose who on the board you chose to share it with, when and how you wanted to. So it was not until the email that we received the Friday before the last board meeting, when it was officially on the agenda, that I saw that anything official had happened and had been introduced. The hasty attempt makes it seem as if the board wishes to protect someone or something from the true fiduciary oversight by taking the only person charged with fiscal oversight of the city off of its board. I also want to be clear that the controller's recent addition to the board is not an anomaly. Rather, it was simply an oversight during the original battle for mayoral control that left the controller off of the board to begin with. As I've mentioned many times in prior meetings, the controller has 3 separate and distinct roles with respect to the pension funds. By statute, the controller is the custodian of the accounts and has been a trustee of 4 of the 5 systems until July, when we were added by statute to BERS. It is because of my role serving on all 5 of these systems that I know how out of whack the budget is, that I mentioned last time in relationship to other systems, that I have raised the questions that I have raised. Just a reminder on the budget, BERS serves less than 60,000 members, the second smallest member universe of all the funds, has the smallest investment portfolio by about $40 billion, yet its budget is the 3rd largest. The Controller's Bureau of Asset Management is also delegated by the 5 systems boards to serve as the investment advisor to the funds. In that capacity, the Bureau manages the investment portfolio, recommends investments after thorough due diligence processes, negotiates all investment contracts, guides the boards through the asset allocation process, and more. There is a staff of over 100 investment professionals in the Controller's office making this work happen. To kick the controller off of this board is a disservice to the beneficiaries of BERS and to the New York City taxpayers. It's at best short-sighted and at worst a purposeful attempt to prevent accountability and oversight. Thank you.
So I will have to, I will say what I need to say, because as a writer of this, as a co-writer of this, I need to be clear. This was actually written prior to any resolution by the controller's office. 1. It was written by Tom and I, and it wasn't a proposal for the board until we actually send it to Alex to add to the agenda. It wasn't moving forward until we wanted some feedback. But again, as I indicated in my email, this also wasn't an official document of BERS. And so if I wrote something as the writer or the co-writer with Tom, I have a right to share it with who I would like to share it with, unless it is an official document of BERS. If you look at the proposals, in the proposals, an election by voting members of PEP in proposal number 2, the controller sits on the PEP. The controller, if the PEP has an election, like they do for co-chair of the PEP, they can also vote for the controller to sit on this board. John and I, as employee trustees, we have to go out and we represent the members. We're also members of BERS ourselves. And we don't have an automatic right to sit on this board. We have to go out and get signatures from our members. We have to hold an election as well. So I believe our proposal, Tom and I, where we actually put a process where people are elected, was just for that purpose. It's in the proposal as well. There are also going to be mayoral trustees. There are also going to be borough president trustees in proposal number 2, who upon their appointment by the elected official, realize that they're appointed to the BERS board. They may not want to be on the board. That may be an extra responsibility that they do not want, right? And so this gives an option for them to either be voted in, as well as the controller, on the board. And again, it's a proposal. It has to go through an entire process. The process is not here. We also do not vote for it here. So I think it's actually jumping ahead of the curve to say that we're outright excluding the controller. I think that's unfair, and that's an unfair assessment.
So
as I said, John and I, as elected members of not only members of the pension, but also members who represent the members of the pension, we're not any super delegates or super trustees. We also have to be elected. And so that is the purpose of this.
So all I would say 2 things. You personally don't have seats on the board. Your unions do. Brad Lander does not have a seat on the board. The comptroller of the city of New York, who has to run for election and win election every 4 years, should have a seat on the board as the fiscal agent of New York City. The first proposal you put forward actively removes the comptroller from the board. There is no vote or anything else. The second proposal, while not actively removing the control, like, yes, in theory, the PEP could nominate the controller to sit on the board, but in every other system, and the way the controller, as the fiscal agent, as the investment advisor, as the custodial, should have a role on the board. And the other point I just want to make, I understand you circulated something for feedback. It's disingenuous to only try to garner feedback from a subset of board members or their appointers. Like the outreach you did was to ask for their appointers to give feedback. We would have been happy to engage in a real conversation about understanding the size of this board is unmanageable. When the new law goes into effect, it will be even more so. Be happy to engage in a productive conversation about what the board should look like, but going around our back and then just proposing it on the public agenda to do that when that conversation has already happened is also disingenuous.
No, and you know what? I don't want this to be a night-long debate, but if we're going to say that, you also proposed a resolution to go into executive session that was going to affect the system, and you did not consult the employee trustees. So to use that, Allison, I think that's very unfair. And I believe something that I wrote, I can share with who I would like to share it with. And then if it becomes official for the agenda or the record, it has to then be shared with everyone. And I'm clear on that. But to say that I have to share or I have to share with everyone to get an input, no, I don't have to do that. It is not an official document of BERS. And so To be clear, your position is that the controller should be on there. Everyone doesn't believe that. The controller was also not a member of the system for over 100 years of this system. So that could be your position, and we both can have opinions on it. But I believe in sharing this resolution, that is why there is more than one option here. And I did not only present one proposal or one option in the resolution, there is more than one. And I also cannot submit this to go through the process that it needs to go to. This is why ample discussion on it needs to happen. And so let me take some other hands on it. I saw John Matterich and then Greg Faulkner.
Yeah, you know, we're not here because of our unions. Our unions aren't guaranteed to be employee trustees. There's other unions that are in BERS, and they could run for these seats as well. Don and I chose to do this, so it's not, you know, Don's union and my union who automatically have seats, and we just happen to be the people appointed to them. We won an election, and anybody is free to run for these positions.
Greg?
Yeah, I just want to say I appreciate the fact that you have come up with this, because one of the problems that we're going to face, especially in January, is being able to achieve a quorum. And I know that you're right. Some members of PEP may choose that they would rather don't have the time or would rather not be a part of the panel of a trustee, and we could elect other people. So I think, you know, that part would really solve a potential problem that's going to come up in January. It's already at times very difficult to achieve a quorum for these meetings, and I think it's going to become more difficult. So I think this might be a better option for us. I definitely would want to definitely see it move forward and consider it.
And I do want to say lastly, on the record, I also, in my email that I sent to you, Allison, I did say that if the controller and yourself would like to come up with a resolution as well to be presented and go through the process, then you are welcome to do as well. I do need to say that. Kyle?
I will say that I understand the point around board management and achieving a quorum and what Greg said. But to me, I think at a time when we are, as a set of trustees, should be working to bolster the confidence we have in BERS, removing the comptroller from the chief fiduciary and whose citywide job is to help think through these issues, is actually serving to erode confidence, certainly my confidence in the BERS process. So I just don't get that, why that's an advisable idea. I get there's some board management issues. I think we're taking the comptroller out is an error.
But am I correct? The controller would still do
That's why it's a proposal, and I also want to state again, for the record, that the controller is not taken out of the second proposal. Greg, I heard you saying something, Tanzine and then Sarita.
Yeah, but I think the controller would still perform. I mean, it wouldn't mean that the controller, even if he were removed from the board, could not still perform those functions, right? I mean, he would still have the oversight. He'd still be, you know, have that investigatory power and the audit power. Those would still be there.
As it has been the case in the past, even with the controller without a seat on the board. Sarita?
Hi, so as the chancellor's designee, and thank you all for the clarification, but just want to say on the record that the chancellor wouldn't support a proposal that would effectively remove the controller or even decrease the mayoral appointee. So I just want to get on the record saying that. I understand that it is just a proposal as for now.
Yes, thank you. Are there any other hands? Tazeen, sorry.
No, thank you so much, Chair, for recognizing me. I think, as you mentioned, this has been presented for deliberation for us to elaborate on, and that's why it looks and it is in its skeletal form the way it is, so they could discuss further. So language added is like from what I hear from what you say, that is a possibility, and we could discuss it, discuss to add. And so and to your point about the second option, I think I do like the fact, and it sort of to me remedies the 2 points about having a sort of lowering the numbers of certain identifications or another, and also including whether or not if it includes the controller or not, having a election process to do that. The point that 15 people, I feel like is the best. It's a very good option. It makes it returns us back to the democratic process that it's supposed to be, and gives it much more validity, and sort of instills trust and integrity into the process. But for sure, I think like further discussion and elaborating is a possibility going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Tazeen. Are there any other discussion or any other views on this resolution or on these proposals? Sorry, no resolution. Allison, is your hand raised again, or is that from last?
No apologies.
Craig, is your hand raised again,
No,
or
I'm sorry.
is that from last time? And Sarita as well, is your hand
Same
raised?
apologies.
Okay. Seeing no other discussion on the proposals, a summary of the next steps regarding the proposals of modification to the composition of the BERS Board of Trustees. I guess we'll continue discussion on this. Okay, this concludes the agenda for this meeting. The next meeting of the BERS Board of Trustees is scheduled for November 29th, 2022. May I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion, John.
Motion, John Matterich. Do we have a second?
Second, Angela Green.
Second, Dr. Angela Green. All those in favor of adjourning the meeting, please indicate your approval. Aye, Donald Nesbitt.
Hey, Greg.
Aye, Gladys Ward.
Hi,
Hi,
Tazina.
Margie.
Angela Green.
Margie
Hi,
Dinsdale.
Sharif Scott.
All right, any opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, the motion carries. Thank you. This meeting has been adjourned. Have a good evening, everyone, and we'll see you at the next meeting.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night, everyone. Good night. Bye.
Night all.